Not a very nice day today. In fact, it's not going to be a very nice weekend altogether. I think it's called Storm Kathleen in this area. We're having 2 days of 50-mile-an-hour winds. So if you've got any crops outside that are quite tall, you might want to offer them a little bit of support, especially if you've got things like broad beans that's put a bit of right on. Just been looking at this little container that we did quite recently. Basically multi-sowing lettuce seeds, little gem, into a tiny little container like that. We grow them on, then we prick out the bigger ones, repot them, and that's how we keep a salad going all year long. And it's only been a couple of days since we did those, and you can see we've got quite a lot of germination. So we've got quite a few of those, aren't we now? That little potato plant that I showed you the other day, just poking through that compost in a 2-litre pot, has now put some good size on as well. I'm going to let these get to about 6 inch, and that's when I'll move them on, because they'll soon build up quite a root system. So before that happens, you put them into your bigger containers, 10 litres or upwards if they're first earlies, and then that's where they'll stay until we're ready to harvest, which is quite a way off. And good morning to Lee Turner. I hope everything's okay in your neck of woods and the storms aren't going to cause too much damage for yourself. They usually do here because they batter all fences, but hopefully if you've got crops outside, they'll make it over the next couple of days. And thank you so much, Lee, for being part of the channel, really appreciate it. And also thank you very much to Carl Evans, Barbara Ellison and Kevin Jarman for making donations to the channel. Once again, really appreciated, and we'll be putting that money to good use as we go through April. So thank you so much for your generosity, massively appreciated. Actually, talking of potato plants, as you'll know, I like to update you on everything as we go through season, and I've shown you this potato plant quite recently, but I think you'll agree that it's now put a significant amount of growth on in just a few days. We just have to make sure we keep these away from any frosts, or that top foliage is going to turn black and die off. And although it won't kill the seed potato, it will have to send up another chit and start all over again. So just keep your eye on that, and if we get any threats of frost, just chuck a bit of fleece over the top. But that's doing really well, and as little plants, they've started too. We've already took a really good harvest of salad, as you'll have seen on previous video, and that has already grown back quite a bit. We took quite a lot of salad from that the other day. But we're not talking about salads too much today. We're going to start off something new, and it's also something that's not very cold hardy. So you'd be much better off starting these off in quite big cells, or even 9cm pots, and then putting them indoors, just to get them to germinate a little bit quicker. And the French beans, not cold hardy at all. So to be fair, at this time of year, I won't direct sow your seeds straight outside. It's going to be too cold and too wet, and if we do get a frost, it'll wipe them plants out straight away. So get them in your pots. If you want to leave them in your greenhouse, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but if we do get any frost warnings, you need to put a couple of layers of bubble wrap or fleece over the top to protect them, or once again those leaves will start to discolour and then the plant will die. And I got some of these, and they're called Blue Lake. I don't know how many is in this bag because I've never opened it, but they're a full-sized pole bean. And these plants can grow anywhere between 6 and 8 feet tall. So you're going to have to get them growing, plant them outside, and then put lots of canes up so that they can wrap themselves around those canes, and they'll quite happily climb right to the very top, flower, and then give you lots and lots of really tasty French beans. And that particular variety is also quite heavy cropping, so a good one to try. Last year we did some dwarf ones, so I'm also going to be doing some of those, and we're going to grow those in containers, because most of what I'm growing this year will be in containers. Just before I do anything, I'm going to water this salad in this little pot. It's looking a little dry. I'll give those potatoes a quick water as well. That job's then done. So that being done, we'll now take a look at these seeds, see how many we've got. But I'm not planning on growing a lot of these because they are really tall plants. Ideally, you can start them off in something like this, but you can go smaller. It's just when these plants come out, the leaves are quite big, and the root systems grow really quick as well. So it would just save you moving them on if you put them into something like that. But I've also got a couple of these, and as you can see, they're quite big cells. So I think these will be perfect. We can plant 6 in here and let them grow on to a really good size, as opposed to the other ones that we usually use, which have 12 cells. They're a little bit too small, I think. So we'll just get that filled up. You don't really need to sieve your compost for these either, because French beans are quite big seeds. I'm just going to press that down. It just makes the compost nice and compact for when we take them out later. And then just top it back off and we're all ready to go. Let's take a look at these seeds. Normally I do Cobra, which are really good French beans as well, and they're black seeds, but these ones are white, and as you can see, quite a good size seed. And when you plant these, if you want to, you can just pop them on, push them down. But if you look at your seeds, you'll notice that on one side there's like a little bit of a line. It's quite hard to tell on these with it being white, but if you see a little line on those, that's basically where your roots are going to come from. And then the top part where it's curved, that bit opens up like a clam. That's where your plant comes from. So what happens is when these seeds germinate, if you just put them in any old way, the seed will just turn itself in that compost to allow that plant to go up. So what I tend to do is plant it with that line down, knowing that that's where the roots are going to come from. Then that seed doesn't have to turn. As soon as it germinates, it just goes straight up. It's not something that you have to do, but I find it allows the plants to come out that little bit quicker, so that I'll plant downwards and I'll just push it in about 1 centimetre or 2. They are quite big seeds, so they'll soon find their way out of that compost. That's basically all I do with these. Push them down with that line facing downwards. It's as easy as that when you're doing your French beans. But if you're not in any particular hurry, just plant them in however you want. I'm only going to do 6 of these at the moment. All we need to do then is just cover them back over. I'm going to chuck a little extra compost on top of there as well, just to even it all out. And that's your seed set up. So all we need to do now is give this a good watering. So just make sure there's plenty of moisture in there. Normally we will put some cling film over the top of this, but when it comes to things like cucumbers and French beans, I don't do that. Because as soon as that plant comes out of that compost, it's going to have quite big leaves on top, and it's going to hit that cling film straight away. And that could bend stems of your plants, and we don't want to do that. So a really good watering, because that compost was very dry. And that's the setup. If you have problems with mice, then I would suggest just dropping a propagator over the top of it like that, just to stop them digging those seeds up and eating them, because they will do. At least then you know that those seeds are protected until that plant actually comes through. So that's basically all I'm going to be doing this morning, because it is quite an horrible day and there's a couple of bits and bobs in garden that I want to just put to one side or wedge at the back of that shed before this wind gets any worse and starts blowing things all around garden and smashing things to pieces, as it tends to do a couple of times a year in this area. So by the time we get to Monday, this storm should have passed, and hopefully nobody sustains any damage whatsoever because of that. But if you have got plants that you think might be susceptible to bad winds, it's best to act now before it gets any worse. We don't want to be losing plants at this time of year. So anyway, thank you so much for being part of the channel, really do appreciate it. And if you want to see what we're going to be doing after this storm's passed, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I'll see you really soon. Take care.